that relationships are important, and that relationships impacted on how the beats of the drums, the shakers, and everything interacted with one another today. It was that relationship with all of those pieces that made our earlier session a successful session. What do you have to do when you give a poor evaluation or investigate misconduct? You need to pay fierce attention. Not fierce like the fire-breathing dragon, but still fierce attention. You have to listen. You have to be willing to hear. And you have to be willing to maybe find out that information you had wasn't all accurate. And be willing to maybe shift the direction of the conversation. What do administrators do when they have to give a poor evaluation, for example? Randy Thomas. Do you plan for the evaluation conversation?
Yes.
How?
There are times that I'll check with individuals in the human resources department or my other peers to determine if my perception is real. If I'm going to have a fierce conversation, I have to have the courage to be able to, follow through with it. So I need to be assured that anything that I'm asserting can be backed up, and make sure that before I engage, that I've got a plan to win.
A plan to win? A plan. Okay, what if you're having a conversation with that employee, and is your win, what would your win be?
A win would be a common understanding.
What if that employee provided additional information to you? Would you be willing to not win?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a win. I mean, a win is having understanding, having both individuals understand the reality. So absolutely. I mean, the truth is the win.
Okay, all right, thank you. Let me pick on Shauna. You and I and Tim and Dave have had a lot of dialogue about one of your certificated staff members that you've struggled with.
Yes.
How do you work and communicate with that struggling employee?
That I plan and I run those conversations, or how I expect the conversation might go. Do that, kind of reflect on it, work with Dave and have some conversations with him about sort of what are the what ifs, and you, and then really come down to meeting that staff member in a place and a time that's going to put them somewhat at ease, so that I'm not setting up already a defensive, and listening, trying to understand the perspective, trying to understand why I'm not seeing the improvement that I want to see, and trying to support that.
Do you have a relationship with that employee?
Yes.
So Shauna's example, and she's got a rather large example, she indicates that she has a relationship with that person, which is important. You need to have a relationship with people if you're going to have a fierce or courageous conversation. If you do not have a relationship with them, they are not going to hear you, and you might not hear them. I'm going to give you an example of an employee that I worked with for the last couple of years. And they were a staff member who was not happy in their role, and their supervisor was not necessarily happy with them in their role. However, the employee had been a long-tenured employee and did not want to talk about transferring out of their building because they were familiar. None of us likes change. And they felt that they should not have to change, but change had come to the building. New office manager, new principal, new other staff members, and change was afoot. But this employee was not interested in taking a transfer, and I was not interested in involuntarily transferring the employee. So I built a relationship with the employee, open door, come in and talk to me anytime. The employee did, more than once, and more than once with their union representative. And that's okay too, because the union representative is there to listen. They're not there to step in. They might want clarifying questions, but they're not there to force a decision, typically. So what I want to share with you is that this staff member who has been unhappy has now been transferred based upon that staff member's request, because they learned in having an opportunity to be temporarily at another building that other buildings are okay, and that we are all here for the same purpose, and that's educating the students and making them learn and grow and be happy. So, therefore, you might be in a situation where you want there to be instantaneous gratification, and it's not going to necessarily be possible. This example is one that I give you that has taken almost 2 years to get to the place that we are today. But it'll be a happy place for that employee and for that administrator at that building, because they will be more inclined to work harder if they are in a happier environment. I want to talk about getting past how are you. Last week I had a telephone conversation with one of our principals, Mr. Hill. He had called after being on vacation, and he unfortunately has a lot of positions yet to fill. And the beginning of the conversation is, as Jason will always start, "Hi, how are you?" And I said, "Hi, I'm great." And then I laughed. I said, "Yeah, I'm not. It is crazy here. We are hiring like crazy, and that's really how I am. I'm fine, but it's crazy here." Jason, when you and I talked, I initially said, "I'm fine," because how are you? We all say how are you to people, and I'm not sure if we're always listening or responding appropriately. How did you take that conversation?
I mean, a great conversation that you felt trust in me, that you could tell me, wow, we got a lot on our plates right now. So it's that natural building trust. And you have you do a really great job of making people feel really at ease with you. And you just continue building this trust. So now, I'm having a tough day, I know that I can say, "Hey, it's not going well down here, I'm going to need some help from you." And so it helped me to see your perspective in that you're doing everything you can to help me, the people in the building that we want. But I just think there's some other people that doesn't do it too as well. So it's great for us to build more layers of trust.
Thank you for sharing that. So that's the kind of relationship that you need to be able to have with people, to be able to have that conversation. Another aspect in relationships is eye contact. I probably drive people crazy because I am an eye kind of person when I'm talking to them all the time. And using my example as a principal meeting, when Kip might ask a question and then he's surveying the crowd, I can't believe how many eyes I see go down. And I won't say that mine don't sometimes, because who wants to be called by the superintendent to have to speak up in front of everybody? Eye contact is extremely important, and you are seeing more than you're probably hearing. Individual people, well, I'm up here using my hands right now. People talk with their hands, so holy cow, I did it again. You are going to be watching the whole upper portion of an individual, and you are going to watch their eyes, their hands, because you're going to gather so much more information about how you see that they're interacting with you. The other day, maybe a couple of weeks ago, Mike Newman and I had a conversation with someone. And Mike came into my office. We had a chat about conversing with a particular employee. And he asked if he could bring that employee in so the two of us could talk with them. And I indicated that yes, that was fine. He went to get the employee and brought the employee in, and we had a conversation not about the employee's work, but about the employee on a personal level, who is struggling with some issues. And the relationship that the two of us had with her, I think, is what made the conversation be a good conversation. Mike, do you want to share that conversation and the relationship that...
I always have to stand up, so
Okay, do you want the microphone?
I can even use it.
All right.
So,
So?
I think we just use so and don't worry about it.
All right.
As I brought this person in to sit down and talk with Debbie was about really the concern for that person's well-being. They're a really good employee, but they really were on a road to destruction for themselves. And so it was actually sitting down and having a conversation and saying that we care about you and that we want to figure out ways to help you to be more successful. But I don't know all the rules about everything, so I had to have Debbie there to help me out with some of those things that are like, family medical leave, because this is what this person was claiming all the time, but it wasn't working well for the department that she was in. And as we sat down and talked, there were things that she brought up that were like, oh wow, I'm glad I don't have that in my life. Oh wow, I'm glad that never happened to me. Oh wow, that's really probably why some of these behavior things exist, because I never knew in the 14 years that I worked with this person that was what the history was. And because we cared enough to sit down and say, you know what, we really care and value you, and we're here to hear things about you, to try and help you out and point you in a particular direction, it really made a significant difference for her. She teared up, she actually cried, we had to give her some Kleenexes. It was really a thing that I was not prepared, that was not my goal when I walked in, but it was really a great outcome that happened, and I'll let Debbie finish telling the rest of the story.